Oh my
What's up out there? David Craven's back again with the Relentless Hope Podcast. We're down here in sunny Southwest Florida. No other place we'd rather be in the 239 Trailer Park. Tim lets me come down here every once in a while. He kicks out all the rich fellers, and he lets us Trailer Park, Lehigh Acre fellers get down here. And we are straight out of the trailer. All right, straight out the trailer we are. And to the left of me, I've got my beautiful, oh my gosh, she's savage. And this week, she was a beautiful savage, but she's a little mean. And so was I, but I love her. And she is my...
beautiful savage.
Hey, Jahnna Cravens, what's up?
Here I am.
Yeah, here I am, everybody.
What a week.
Oh, man, we had a great night last night, but we're going to get right into this podcast. We've got some guests. It's been about a year in the making. Jackson had brought him to my attention, and then I reached out. We didn't get a chance and just kind of talked and went on. But, I mean, really, when I tell people, when you meet your kind of people, you know you met them. We met him because we couldn't leave the parking lot last night after the event. And all of us was tired. His hip was out. My knee was going out. The girls didn't have no more voices. But without further ado, we would like to welcome Andrew and Char Marshall. Andrew and Char Marshall. I was thinking ahead. I was going to say Charlene.
Where are you going with this?
Andrew and Char Marshall. They're coming out of Tennessee, but I think they're originally from California. He's the founder, to me, of Outlaw Gospel. Some people may not agree, but to me he is. So that's all that matters on this podcast, because it's the Relentless Hope Podcast. Right. So he's the founder. What's up, guys?
What's up? We're happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. All their links will be in below too for their socials, his music. It's good, man. If you like some country, if you like some old school rock, some blues, I'm telling you now, I'm not just saying this because he's here with me. And John and I said, he rocked it out last night live. Like, it wasn't everybody was singing. He wasn't being fake like us, rapping on backtracks. He was singing his parts, you know what I'm saying? And he was killing it. And then Miss Char got on the mic, John, and we were like,
I was like, wow.
What? Like, she preached. There was fire and smoke, boy.
Yes.
The devil, he wasn't even around. He left, but he was down the block. He said, I got to get out of here. No, and it was awesome to be with them. So, guys, tell a little bit about what you do, why you're down here and what you're doing. And then I want to get into your story, whatever you want to share, whatever you want to do. So share about what you do and what's going on.
How far back do we go? Well, I'll start it by life was good. Post-prison, second prison term.
Right.
Life was good. We had good jobs. We had everything we needed. And I kept telling her we need to go on the road. I led Celebrate Recovery for like 7 years.
Right.
And I said, God is telling me that we need to take this on the road for the folks that won't come to church. And that was only partially true. I wanted to go on the road.
Right. Right.
And she knew that. And she told me, she says, listen, when God lets me know, I'll let you know. It's like, all right. So she thought she had a fix for it all. And she booked a Celebrate Recovery that I used to lead anyway in the town we lived in, thinking that if she could remind me that I can get my fix, as she thought it was, right there, she could stay close to the grandkids and the kids, and we didn't have to do anything, keep our jobs in the house and all the toys.
Right.
And so I went in there and I did some songs that night. And at the end of the night, she came up crying with the grandbabies in each arm and said, God told me to get out of the way.
Oh, man.
So I called my brother, who's a realtor. We sold I said, you got anybody that needs a house? He goes, yes. I said, send them. The next day they were there. 3 days later, we were in contract. The house was gone.
Wow. That quick.
Quit our jobs. So within 5 weeks, we were all the way sold, all the way quit, and bought a fifth wheel and packed it up and headed out.
Wow.
So now we go wherever God opens a door or asks us to go, or a church or Celebrate Recovery or Recovery Church, Recovery Alive, homeless camps, wherever we go. We don't ask them for money. We say, look, if you can afford to do a room and maybe take a love offering, whatever, it'll be supplied as we go.
Right.
And that's what we do. And so that's why we're down here in South Florida. Where were we last night? Cape
Coral.
Cape Coral.
Cape Coral.
Recovery Church North.
Recovery Church North Cape.
Awesome crowd, too.
That was actually the first time we got to go to that Recovery Church.
Love them.
And Recovery Church came into the mix 2.5 years ago. I asked somebody who was helping us, said, find me the national team for Celebrate Recovery.
Right.
Because I didn't know about Recovery Church. said, find me someone national team. So if I could just start here and then they could say, this is what we do. And they could bleed it down and let everybody know and make it easy.
Right.
And he sent me a link to Recovery Church. I'm like, this isn't it.
Right.
I looked at it. I read it. I'm like, oh, these are our people. I said, I feel like we should play at all of these. Bring music and testimony.
Right.
And then life happened and I got busy and then we sold the house and did all the things. And then 6 months later, I get a call from a friend who said that she was turned on to my music right when she was getting ready to start her recovery journey. And she just played it on repeat. Get your praise on, get all the stuff. And she said it helped her. And she talked to him when she wanted to start a new thing. And I said, check out this Recovery Church thing.
Right.
She spoke to a gentleman named Mitch, who was part of their team, and he heard enough from her that he asked if he could get my number. He calls me and says, hey, I know this is early, but and you don't know us, but what would you think about coming and playing all the recovery churches?
Wow.
I was like, that's what I wanted to do.
That's what, God. That's God all the way around, though.
Yes.
Last year and the year before, we did all of them that we could. I think we did all of Florida, 28 recovery churches.
Yeah, because I remember that's when I talked to you. That's when you were doing it. You were
this year,
stacked tight.
Yeah, this year is a little different. North Cape, we'd never been there before, so that was the first time at that location. And we have to break it up into four trips.
4 trips.
Because we're living in Nashville now, but so we can only be gone like 10 days at a time.
Right. And
for different reasons.
Yeah,
But so this is first trip, 3 more to come.
Yeah. That's awesome. Sound like anybody else? Sounds like anybody else? Hey, we come. Give us a love offering, do that. We're just bringing some hope. You know what I mean? And that's why my heart, when we say, you know, you're our people and we're a people, you know, we get rescued from the fire to go back to the fire to rescue people, right? And it's not cause, you know, we're just for, you know, as I heard your story last night and thinking of Jahnna's testimony and I hear your testimony and thinking of my testimony, you know, we're just 4 redeemed outlaws.
Yes.
I mean, all we are is 4 people, you know, who've blown it probably every way possible, you know, probably the world would look like them guys over there, you know, and all of that. What more real people does God need to see change? Yeah. Right? Because there's no motive for me. It ain't like I can trick Tim to letting me come into this podcast, you know? It ain't like I can trick somebody, we want Dave to come, right? You know what I mean? Right. There's one reason why I do what I do. It's because if I can do it, anybody can. And if God died for me and forgave me, I know he can died for you and can forgive you, you know? And that's why, you know, we're so thankful for you guys for what you do. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot of people, and it's nothing against any person or a shot at anybody that they won't just go.
No shade.
No. I'm not going to say your name. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Jeez, no.
That
Keep
guy?
the comments.
That one you were telling me about last night?
Yeah. No, you know who he was.
Yeah, that guy.
His handle is, no, I'm just kidding. But, you know, each their own. Some people, you know, I've had people tell me, hey, you got to do it like the business like this, and you need to get this. And I'm like, hey, man, if Jesus tells me to go, I can go. I'm going to go.
Amen.
You know, and so tell a little bit about your guys' story, but I want to know, you know, like I said, a lot of our podcast is about marriage. Our whole life is about marriage. You know what I mean? Jahnna, we were like driving last night on the way home. She's like, I want to hear how they met. I want to know the story because you hear the testimonies and do that. Yes. So give us, Ms. Char, give us a little bit of a brief. Your side. No, I want it to be a real.
Okay, 100% authentic.
Wait, listen, you guys share this. This is the. Again, here's my disclaimer. If you're tuning into your regular scheduled Christian podcast, go ahead and click and get off there now because you'll probably be offended by the end of the deal because we keep it real on the Relentless Hope Podcast. So, yes, we want the real story, the muddy, the messy, the lovey, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, yeah, because there's
whatever you skip
there,
over, you know I'm going to tell it.
I know.
Let me pop one of these clean calls because I got to hear this story. Clean calls, 50% of the
it's good,
profits.
right, Char?
Go
These
to drug
really
recovery.
Good.
They're
this
so
is my
light.
new favorite drink.
Listen,
I'm
going to give you
love
all
them.
3. So
I need the link.
Yeah.
Yes, girl, I got
Link.
you.
We love them. They're healthy energy. They're
And they
down for
taste good.
Relentless Hope.
Yeah.
And you have no
They
aftertaste,
taste
no
good.
jitter.
And they got collagen.
Yes.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
They got look at these lips. Give me a kiss with them trailer park lips. Tell the story. Let's roll.
We met in rehab. We don't suggest anyone get together in rehab, but we met in rehab.
It happens.
He was coming in from prison,
Mhm.
and I was coming off the streets.
Right.
I was a prostitute. I was homeless. My kids were taken.
Right.
And I came in as broken could be.
Right.
And he was in there. And I didn't know that when we got there, it was going to be co-ed. So I was like, oh, they're setting me up for failure.
Oh.
Another addiction I have is the opposite sex, right?
Yeah.
And so we go in, we meet. We were friends for a year, friends with benefits for a year.
Hey,
Keeping it honest,
Keeping it honest.
Yeah, keep it real.
We skipped
and-
over the raise a plant and don't kill it phase.
Yeah,
of your recovery.
yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did that. And then we became best friends.
Mm.
In that time, we got to know each other because we were being real. We weren't trying to be fake with one
you weren't
another or
trying to
impress
trick
one
each other.
another. He's seen, the real raw me
Yeah.
because we were working through a lot of stuff at the same time. When he met me, my head was down because I'd been in an incredibly abusive relationship. And he would walk by me and he'd say, lift your head up, lift your head up, lift your head up. And no one had ever told me that before.
Right.
And so it was definitely different for me. And at first, when I'd lift my head up, I couldn't walk straight. I was so used to looking
Walking
down.
down.
Yeah, I would.
Wow.
My equilibrium was off, so I would
Wow.
stumble.
And now look what we've created. Self full of confidence and
Right.
stuff.
That's
Got
a Jesus.
shopping.
in
look
this
what
room.
God can do.
She got opinions and stuff.
And so we got together a year later. We made it official, and then we got married. And we didn't get married when we were first together. God wasn't in our relationship,
Right.
right? We didn't have a pastor, officiate our wedding. We didn't want none of that.
Right.
He calls himself, your mom's going to kill me, recovering Catholic.
Right.
I know all about guilt.
I'm gonna need 3 Hail Marys.
And I just
We love you, Mama.
yeah,
Marshall.
right.
Yes.
We do. But I just wanted nothing to do with. I was angry at God. Still.
Yeah.
I was really angry at God at that point, so I wanted nothing to do with him.
Right.
Get it?
And so we got together, and after about a year, it wasn't even a year, 6 months, he relapsed. I left out of town, and I came back, and he had found some stuff while he was remodeling that he had hidden years
Oh.
prior.
I
And
know that. I
Yeah,
know that
years.
story too.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
never
I mean,
stuff
we'd
like
been
that.
clean 5 years. We had a beautiful home. We were doing things, the
Yeah.
kids, and our poor kids were like, oh, it's stable. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right,
They were
'cause they-
happy.
yeah.
They came from CPS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I gotten them back. They fell in love with him. This was dad. This is still dad. He's walked both the girls down the aisle.
Oh, that's awesome. We love
He's
that.
grandpa. That is
I
papa.
love that story.
Yeah.
And then he relapsed. And when I came back, we weren't doing meetings.
Right.
We weren't working our steps.
You
We
wasn't doing
weren't,
it.
yeah, we weren't
Yeah.
doing anything we needed to be.
Right.
And we didn't have God.
Yep.
Mm.
So like I told Sad last night,
Last
we're
night,
either working on
5.
recovery or we're working on
relapse.
relapse. And if we're not doing the 5, going to meetings, working with a sponsor, doing our steps, being of service, and putting God first, you're going to pick up again.
Yep.
Mm.
You're going to.
It's just. I mean, you don't even have to say you're going to be statistically.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's going to happen.
It will
It's gonna
happen. And so he picked up, and I was angry. But I was angry because he was high and I wasn't.
Right.
Mm.
It wasn't.
You wanted to be on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
level.
fair. Well, if you're going to do it, I'm
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then it was when I'd left town, he ended up having an affair.
Mm.
And so he was a completely different person when he was high. Like
We
this was
all
my
are.
Oh,
best,
yeah.
my best friend. And what I didn't expect was that when he went out on a run, that the affairs, everything was going to happen, right? And he
Just
just
your inhibitions are down.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you're
You're
not,
not
the same.
you.
You're
And I don't
si-
have many inhibitions to begin with.
Yeah, buddy. What? I thought that was when they made alcohol illegal. What I thought inhibitions were. They said, no, that's prohibition.
no
Dave. I thought
1920,
it was
son.
inhibition, bro. No.
what's code?
Yeah, what's
right.
the word?
Knock. 3 ice sodas. No, I'm just kidding. Remember, we do have our
Capone.
kids, Elijah and Jackson and D Money over there on the controls. They know Tim's back there drinking Clean Claws. Hey, but so the prohibition was down.
And then I was the worst, I guess, when I relapsed that time. I was the Eeyore of the bunch because
Mm.
I was off the street. So we had a home. We were losing everything. And he hated it because as soon as we get high, I'd be like, this is awful. We're
Yeah.
losing everything. And he.
What are we doing?
Yeah, it was like, I can't get high with you no more. Like,
You're killing my high.
Exactly.
so he would run off. I would run off chasing him. And it was this vicious circle. He had this Harley that was so loud. And I'd sit in the middle of town. And I'd just listen.
Here he is.
At 3 in the morning.
And I'd hear the
3
pipes.
in the morning.
And I'd be like, now I know where he is.
Oh, busted.
The town was only 50,000 people, so
Oh,
you can
yeah.
literally
She
sit in
could
the middle of
find you.
town, and I'd fire it up and
And we're not the
she's like,
smartest
No.
people
It's over
either.
there.
We're
No.
like hiding, you know.
Well, and what drugs do and what that lifestyle does was we had everything within 1 year. He'd been arrested 2 times.
Mm.
CPS was at my door.
Mm.
He wasn't driving a Harley no more. He was on a moped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it became a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
We had everything taken from
That
us.
quick.
And then I turned him in and he went to prison.
Mm.
I had to call the cops on him.
Mm.
I got clean. He wouldn't. I kicked in the door to our old house and he was in the back bedroom and he was laying. It was a trap house at that point.
Right.
It was a complete trap house. And he was on the floor in our bedroom and from his knees down, they were black.
pretty close to black.
Yeah. And I thought he was dead.
Wow, bro.
And I yelled at him and he didn't answer. And I went over and I kicked him. And he woke up and I said, you got 2 days to check yourself into a rehab or I'm calling the cops on you. Now, mind you, I grew up in the hood. I grew up on the streets.
Right.
Like, I come from DPH where it was like,
Yeah.
it's known for the deepest part of hell. That's what they
Right,
call it,
right.
right? And you don't tell.
Right.
Right? That
No
just went
snitch.
ingrained.
No, I came from the same thing. I mean, that's-
You don't tell the people you
Earmuffs
don't
tell.
like, yeah,
Mhm.
let alone the people that you
that
supposedly
you love. Like, how
yeah.
could you do that if you love them? When really you're doing that because you do love them.
That's true.
Exactly.
Like, it's the same thing. Like, you come from, I was telling Tim one time, you know, we're talking about the thing. It's like, I lived in a neighborhood and there was shootings on this street. This
Yeah.
one gang came in. It's called a No Love Gang. And they were just like, and then the cops would be coming and nobody was talking. Like your nephew just killed your other nephew and nobody. And I remember living there, but I remember one time there was a shooting right across the street and I pretty much seen it. And I remember the cops coming. I'm like, I'm shutting my door right now. But if you had any common sense, you'd look right across the street and you'd be able to, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
had to go in and shut the door
Side,
too
yeah.
because you don't tell,
That
you know.
was-
And,
Awful
Mhm.
things
but
happen.
now
if you
I'll
told.
tell on
Yeah.
you if you do something
Right?
bad in the name of Jesus.
Let
I
me
got
tell
a
you.
cop with handcuffs.
I not only tell on you, I send you to prison.
That's right, no.
And so, yeah, I had not been in church in over 20 years.
Mm.
In over 20 years. And I told him in 2 days passed and he didn't believe I'd do it. He didn't. I
Well,
didn't
no,
think I'd
yeah.
do it.
No.
I mean,
He's like,
She's
she's
from the
not
hood.
going to do it. And I was driving around as a taxi cab driver and I drove around and I just so happened a church door was open. Not been in a church in 20 years. And
Wow.
I pulled in the parking lot and I went in, I sat in the back and I yelled at God.
yeah.
I said, what do you want me to do? I said, how am I supposed to do this? I said, but he's going to die if I don't.
Right.
And I walked outside and I stood there just by the front doors. And I tell you, I pulled out my phone and I dialed the non-emergency number. I didn't know that number,
Right.
but I dialed it.
Right.
And someone picked up the phone and I just started spilling everything on the phone, right? And he goes, ma'am, hold on. I need to transfer you to a detective.
Mm.
And God has a sense of humor because the detective they transferred me to was the one that hated him.
Uh-oh.
They've been chasing me for
Yes.
all year,
Really?
trying to catch
Just
me.
trying
all
to
the
get
time.
you anyway.
And yeah, I told Mo, Officer Mo.
Officer Mo,
Shout out to Officer Mo.
wherever you may be.
Mo, we
And
love you.
within
You saved
30
his life.
minutes, he was in handcuffs.
Mm.
30 minutes. And I had people blowing up my phone.
Yeah.
And,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I
Mad
bet
as
that.
hell.
I can only
Yeah.
imagine
I
how
was
that
like,
went.
you know what? I wasn't the person I am today. And like he said last night, I know I've changed because today I lay hands on people. And back in the day, I used to put hands
You
on
put
people.
hands on them, yeah.
You
Now we
know,
lay hands,
yeah.
we just put hands on
Yeah.
them.
So I would tell them, I was like, where do you want me to meet you? And they were like, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
He was dying.
We saved his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I cried and cried and cried. I did not know that God had such an amazing plan that in prison, he was going to return back to Jesus.
Mm.
And he would be the man that led me back to Jesus when he got out.
Wow.
Jesus knew that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, God knows what that storm's coming, right?
That's right.
And so often we argue and we don't want to do, the things that are happening.
Right.
And then we look back and we're like,
How can we know?
Wow.
look what you did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, look what you did.
Because we can only understand God up to here.
Yeah.
We don't see the big picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, who would think?
Most of the time, we don't see the small picture.
No,
Right,
yeah. Well,
right.
we can't even comprehend because we don't see ourselves like God sees us.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so you turn him in. He goes in. How much time you do on this bid?
This one, I told him out.
What was you on paper? Was you on parole or something?
No,
Or-
no,
He
but
was on
But in
bail.
California, they had. Well, I'd
Twice.
been out on bail a couple times at
Mm.
that point, but they look at your all your priors,
They
and they
point
start
you out.
stacking it up.
Yeah, they point you out here.
So
Too.
the judge, I went in there being, the hard criminal that I thought I was. He's like, no, I'm not taking no deal. We're going to go to the box. I'm going to make them spend some money. Blip, 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 blip. And my attorney comes back and says, check it out. If you don't You try to go to the box. They've got this, 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 and this. I was like, but the other I had somebody on the back of my motorcycle who had everything stuffed in her.
Right.
She had in the trunk, her purse was back there, and there was a scale and bags and
Everything.
pillow sheets.
Paraphernalia.
Yeah.
That's your trunk. I'm
Yeah.
like, but that's her purse. Don't matter. So
matter.
if you
Sure,
lose because you go to the box and you're going to lose, you're going to do 15.
Right.
I'm like, well, that sucks. So she's sitting in the gallery. I said, go over there and tell her what the deal is. The deal's 8. Or I go and could be 15. You go tell her what's up, and whatever she decides, that's what we'll do. Just, I'm tired of being here. Let's be done and move me on to wherever I'm going.
Took a plea.
So she told him, he comes back, he says, take the deal. I was like, all right, whatever. Are you sure? Yeah, she's
Yeah, you're guilty. Yes.
So we took the deal. I get back to the jail, and I go make my little phone call. She answers, and I tried to be tough. I'm like, hey, it's gonna be 8 years. Even on halftime, it's gonna be over 4 years, which ended up being 5 because I don't listen. But
I get it.
No good behavior.
So in California, they cut half off at the gate too.
well, once you get to prison, not in reception.
No.
but
When
once
once you take your time,
Yeah.
same thing in Illinois. Once you get there, they cut half off, and then from there on, and then you have to finish up on parole that other half. Where
Pretty
not
much.
the same thing.
I actually got on a thing on parole. It was called non-revocable parole.
Okay.
They just started it. You get out and you visit your parole officer for like 3 times, 90 days.
and then you mail.
and then you're just done.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
wow.
you're not in trouble. Stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Bye.
State of Illinois is like this. They get you, but they're like, here, we're gonna put you this, and then you're gonna mail. You're coming back. The odds are you're coming back.
sets
you up.
It's all
They
money
do.
because all the prisons
really
are
do.
privately owned in
Yeah.
Illinois.
Mhm.
So Tim Durrett, me and him, we're buying one right now. It's called the Relentless Hope Prison. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
So,
we're
you know,
not.
I just-
Everybody always asks me, so did prison save your life? I said, well, the act of going to prison. did.
Right.
In California, it's called California Department of
Rehabilitation.
Corrections and Rehabilitations. I'm like, no, that's just a cute name that they give to justify
It's not that it's
the
prison.
money.
Yeah.
But there is no rehabilitation.
No.
There's stuff available to you if you want it, but they're not trying to get you to want it.
No.
Because for the first 4.5 of
system,
the 5
man.
years that I spent in there, I did exactly the same things and more than what I had done that got me in there.
On the street.
Mm.
Because they figured I was drugs. There was no violence, no GTAs, no firearms. So I was what they call low risk. So they could put me outside to work outside the fence. So
Oh,
I
boy.
worked in the Prison Industry Authority. I was a truck driver.
Right.
I delivered trucks
Right.
to the road for real truck drivers to pick up, and then I would bring the empties back.
And then you would come back. Okay.
And I won't go too deep, but
Right.
suffice it to
They
say,
didn't come back empty.
well, suffice it to say, there was things going on, and it
He
was
didn't
my
go back
job.
in empty.
My job was not only to do that job for 95 cents an hour, but my job was to pick other things that were dropped off out in the field and then shuttle them all back in.
Right,
So
right.
I
I get
ate
it.
like a king for 4.5 years.
get
I
it.
was high, and it was
Yeah.
and I had problems because of that, and I didn't see the problems.
Right.
Mm.
But then the story you heard last night, it was all about me. Go
Yeah.
Get into the chapel, and you can play on some good instruments.
Right.
So, but then it all changed. I even quit the job that I was doing, and that was big money in prison. Everybody else was making 11 cents an hour.
11 cents an hour.
I'm making
making
95
8.
cents. I'm
Nah,
balling.
buddy, you're working for the chaplain over here.
I didn't eat soups. I had roast beef.
Yeah, you got in there. Wearing back, you used to order stuff out of East Bay Magazine back in the day in Illinois. So when you were in the unit, not when you were out in movement, but so you have Adidas. Boy, I don't. Anyway,
Well, once a quarter, you were allowed a package, and,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the name of the 2 books you could order from, but
probably East Bay back then, and then
Probably.
another, yeah.
we had.
But they don't do that no more now. Everything's lockered up, and
What was funny is we found out the people that started those 2, because in the old days in my first prison term, we used to get tuna cans packed with tobacco.
right.
Because somebody would buy a canning machine.
Yeah, put it
It
in
was
cans.
It was your quarterly package from home,
Right.
and that's how you got it. And then so they said only allowed packages from these companies. Well, those companies were started by ex-prison guards.
Yeah. So
I was like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
racket.
smart.
Smart.
Okay,
That's
so
what it is.
now the whole time you're in the joint, that's prison lingo, Tim.
Walking the line.
The whole time you were Johnny Cash.
Yeah, because he didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I'm just playing. You guys were in contact though. I mean, you were taking care of them, sending talking calls.
Well, his mom
visits,
was
help.
sending him packages. I was taking care of the kids.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But you guys were
Yeah,
still
we were
together.
still
I'm
together.
saying,
Yeah. We
Oh,
were
but
still
when I
together.
was on my way from the jail, right that day of court, I called her and she answered. I said, "Listen, you know the rules of the street. Anything over a year, you don't got to stick around. You can find yourself somebody.
Be happy.
Be happy. I'll be okay.
I'll be okay. Hey,
Don't wait for
far
me.
as I'm-
Right?
Don't wait for
Hey,
me.
as far as I'm concerned, it's over right now.
I'll
From the
always
day I
love
called
you.
it, it's over. What do you mean you're talking
That's
to
what I
him?
told
the
him.
hell up.
That's exactly what I told him. And he was crying, and I was in the visiting room, and I said, "Stop crying. You can't go back there like that." I said,
Yeah.
"And shut up."
Yeah, you better toughen up right now.
So the whole
Just go
time.
on, live your life. It'll
So
be okay.
you do 4.5 or whatever.
Nope,
Almost
5.
Almost 5.
Five.
You do 5. You come home. Okay.
Mhm.
Bring me to the coming home.
Ah.
When he came home, I was
No.
400 pounds.
He's like, wait.
I was 400 pounds.
So you were stress eating.
I was stress eating. I was drinking. I had returned to drinking. I was
alcohol.
drinking probably a half gallon a day.
So you're drinking a whole handle and then some.
Yeah, it was a lot. I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and I was literally killing myself
Yeah.
slowly.
Wow.
And he came home, and he wasn't expecting it. And I couldn't fit through the door.
Mm-mm.
Really?
She would turn sideways
could
to
not
walk
fit
through her
through the
front
door.
door because her hips
Yeah.
were so wide. She didn't even
Wow.
realize it. Our son goes, "Do you realize you turn sideways?" And I go, "She does, doesn't she?"
Yeah, it was crazy. And he came home, and he got real honest with me. And he said, "Look, I love you, but I'm not attracted to you."
That hurt.
And I thought, I waited almost 5 years for you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, "Look, I love you, but I don't need you anymore."
Right. Oh.
And I walked out of the kitchen, but I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed someone to love me
It's enough to want you to be
Yeah.
the best you.
to say, "You don't want to live like this.
No.
This is
You're
not.
not
This
gonna
is
live
not
long.
who you
Yeah.
are."
Yeah.
Yeah. I even would go to my doctors, hoping they'd say, "Oh, something medically," and he's like, "You're healthy," and I'm like,
Yeah. Just got no discipline.
"I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes. How am I healthy?"
Right.
And he was doing Celebrate Recovery, and I'd never heard of Celebrate Recovery before. And I would just go listen to him play.
Mhm.
I'd leave. I'd go to Taco Bell. I'd get my food. I'd get my big old bottle, and I'd go home and I'd drink and I'd eat.
Right.
And we were walking by one of the small groups, and he literally shoved me through the door, just pushed me in the door. And I walk in, there's a bunch of women sitting there, and I'm like, in my pride, I can't walk out now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, now you're in. You gotta
Yeah,
say
and I'm
so.
like, "Hi," right? So I sit down, and in that meeting, I encountered a Jesus I'd never met before.
Wow.
I encountered the Jesus that I spoke about last night when the woman told me Jesus loves you, and I felt that hope.
Mm.
And something in me became so addicted and so drawn and so in love with him.
Mm.
And I left, and I just kept telling him, I said, "Something's different. Something's changed."
Something
And
needed to
yeah,
be different.
And from that moment on, I was like, I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit smoking,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stop. And even church people were like, "You can't do that. You can't do them all
You're
at
not gonna
once."
be
Yeah.
able to-
And I would look at him and be like, "You're right. I can't." But he can.
Yeah.
And when you have that fire,
When
right?
you know when you got a
Yeah.
hold,
When you have that
when
tenacity,
you know,
buddy, I'm
when you
doing
know
it.
what
Yeah.
you need to do and want to do, when you get that focus, I don't want to say it's easy, but you know, like
Yes.
I know what I'm gonna do.
It's
This is the focus.
determination.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it. You know what I mean?
And it was like, you can't tell me I can't, because I know he can. It was that encounter. I met a man.
Yeah.
I met a man, and it wasn't in my own strength. I knew I couldn't.
Right.
Right.
I knew I couldn't, but I knew he could.
Right.
And that's all that mattered. And when I read a few verses to where when Mary was brought to him, Mary of Magdalene, and when he said, let those, who have not sinned be the first to throw a stone, I thought,
That's the first stone.
I just thought, oh my gosh, he loves me.
Yeah.
He loves me too.
That's awesome.
I'm part of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm part of that group. I am included in that.
I know now that he still loves me.
Mm.
And when I realized that, and it became real to me, I knew there was nothing I couldn't do with him
Right.
as long as I was following him.
Yep.
Right.
And so I dug in head deep. Meanwhile, this one, he's still
Uh-oh.
1 foot in and 1 foot
No,
out.
he's not hard headed. That fella.
Because he's playing in a Celebrate Recovery now, and
Right.
it's got
Yeah.
150, 300 people coming to
Yeah.
it, right? But he's all about,
He's
they're
out
coming
there,
to see
"Get
me.
my Jesus song."
Look at
That
me.
pride.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
and as
like,
soon
look
as,
at all these people that came to hear me.
Right.
and as soon as he get off stage, he'd go outside, and he wouldn't even be inside for any of it.
Right.
And I remember one time they asked him to play at church, and he was outside, and I went out and I was like, "If you don't get in there right now," and the guys that were out with him were like, "We're sorry." I was like, "I wasn't talking to y'all."
Yeah.
Right.
It's about
Yeah,
you.
I was just talking to him because I need to know. And that's why I told him I'm not leaving while it's the Andrew show.
Right.
Right.
I will not give up everything I love.
Mm.
I love him,
Right.
but I knew where the pride was. When he was willing to do it without charging,
Mm.
when he was willing to do it for God,
Right.
when he was willing to say, I'll give up everything.
That's right.
And when I seen him on stage that night, and I could just feel the Holy Spirit connecting with him. And I had my 2-year-old granddaughter on my lap. And I heard God tell me, it's time to get out of the way.
Mm.
And I just thought, you cannot be asking me to give this up.
Mm.
You cannot be asking me to give up this. And I just held on to her. And God was like, I need you to give up your better for my best.
I love that.
That's powerful.
That's a shirt.
And
Yeah,
that-
you need to make that
Right?
shirt.
Right.
I'm not going to steal your idea, but you need to make the shirt. That'd be a good shirt.
my tagline is be the example, not the excuse.
Yeah. Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
How
we
many
need to be
excuses
the
do we come
well,
up
and
now?
we need to be the example that people want to get to know Jesus,
Right.
not the excuse they run away.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out there with bullhorns and this
Yeah.
and that, and they're bashing people over the head with a Bible instead of
Yes.
being an example and saying, I want to show you a love like you've never met before.
So on that, Char, I was going to say, do you think for the moment for you when things change as far as seeing Jesus different, coming from similar backgrounds, do you feel like it was the point of realizing that he could love you?
Yeah.
Right? Because for me, I was always like, oh, he can love this person, but they weren't as dirty as I was.
That's
right?
exactly it.
And when I finally got that, I was like,
It's life changing.
It is. And I love that dirty girl.
completely.
It's life
Love
changing.
my dirty girl.
Yeah. When you know that you can be loved, when you feel so incredibly worthless, like you just have scraped the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, that you're nothing.
Yeah. And he says, no, to me, you're everything.
Mm.
And you know, Isaiah 54:17 says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But all too often we're the weapon formed against
Oh,
us.
yeah. Well, most
Come
of the
on.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean-
we look in the mirror and we doubt who he created us to be.
That's
We're
right.
not good enough. We're not this.
Because
And-
we don't see in the spiritual eyes.
Well, we
you
see in
know?
our pattern thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. And whatever your pattern thought is, going over the testimony, things happen to me as a young boy that don't happen to boys. You know what I'm saying? And then my dad had left before that. So here's the guy who I think was the toughest guy in the world up until he died, right? And he's supposed to protect me, and he's gone. And then this guy does this thing to me, and then makes you feel a certain way. It set me on a pattern form that I lived my whole life. So as it goes in, whatever the pattern in your life is,
Mhm.
that's how we see ourselves. If we see ourselves, well, they're good, but I'm okay. Because we got to see ourselves like Jesus sees us.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
That's
And it's
exactly
all
it.
about the 6-inch piece of real estate
Yeah.
between your ears. That's really where it starts. And there's some different, Christian people, or, sometimes they'll go, well, as long as your heart, I go, no.
Mm.
Yeah.
You better get this right, because this follows this.
Yep. Yep.
Right? And this has made me, I remember, you were with who? And this was like, come on, right? And me following this to get me in
Simmer
trouble.
down,
This was
son.
like,
Simmer down.
slow down a little bit, buddy. Slow down, right? And so that was the part. I had the heart, and I know I love people. But I couldn't believe up here that I could be loved.
Mm.
And until I got some help and dealt with that and
Yeah.
really got honest and gave it to Jesus, that's when it all changed.
And you took responsibility for your healing.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and all too
Well,
often,
healing's-
we sit around and like, God heal me, God heal me, God heal me, God make me a better person, make me a better person. But we don't do anything to become a better person.
It goes like
Right.
this, and when I speak to at places like recovery places or talking to somebody, when Jesus passed the guy, the leper,
Yeah.
and he asked him a question. What did he ask him? Do you want to
Do
be
you want to
healed?
be healed?
You know how many times I read that and was like, well, duh, Jesus. Like Jesus, you're Jesus. Of course he wants to be healed. He's a leper. But he wasn't. He already knew the answer to the questions, just like my boys will tell you. If I ask them, I already know the answer. They're already know. So what Jesus was saying was, do you want it? You got to show me and
Yes.
tell me that you want it. It's the same thing with the healing. Jesus has it, do you want it? But are you going to be responsible
Yeah.
for it?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't for the other person.
Exactly.
Forgiveness is for
us.
you.
Yes.
You
yes,
forgive people so
yes.
you can be free,
That's
and they
it.
can't do it. And once I got a hold of that and was like, hey, I'm not forgiving you for you. I'm forgiving you for me,
Exactly.
so I can be free, and the devil has no more place in my
Amen.
life. And once I started doing that, and she'll tell you, the person that did that to me wished me Merry Christmas this year,
Mm.
and I've planned his death before.
And the
Yeah.
year before.
YouTube
that.
will probably suppress this video now that I said that. But and for me to know that I forgive
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I used to
Exactly.
thought, dude, when I
I
see
know.
that dude, it's
I've
over
done-
with.
yeah.
And now this is how, if you ask me how I know Jesus is real, I know Jesus is real because I have compassion and forgiveness and empathy to say, what happened to that person?
Yeah.
That why
Yes.
they made these decisions to do this
Yes.
to an innocent little boy and take his childhood. That's how I operate.
Yeah.
It really is, though. When I got to that point, I'm like, God, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And growing up
Exactly.
how I grew up,
Yeah.
you want to,
Yep.
I mean, I thought and planned and
Oh, I did
aimed
too.
and stuff.
I did
And
too.
so
I was on a mission.
when you get that, and it's the same thing with Jahnna. Jahnna went through some things that happened to a young girl of how she came into, sexuality
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shouldn't happen, and so till you start forgiving those people in that trauma, you just go in this circle.
And every time you remember it, when you don't, it's all over again.
Yeah.
It's all
Oh,
over again.
yeah.
And that person's no longer. And I had to have a sponsor that told me, Charlene, you're victimizing yourself.
Yeah.
You're now causing it to yourself over and over and over again
Yeah.
because you won't let go of it and you won't be responsible for it.
Yeah.
And I had to go to counseling.
Yeah.
And I had to walk through it. And there are even moments. It's a process.
It's all a process.
There are even sometimes when something will happen, and it's usually the things that happen to, I won't say the names, but someone that I love more than
I
anything
get
in
it.
the whole world.
I get it.
When that comes up, I'll have to go, I can feel a little
Mhm.
and I go, nope, I forgive them.
No, I know
forgive them.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, but I can watch a show
Yeah.
or hear
Yeah,
something
you're
happen
right
and
in that.
then it can trigger me. You know what I'm saying? Or I do this judgmental thing. This is horrible that I even meant this, but we used to watch Intervention and I'd be like, that's all? And they're shooting heroin?
Oh my gosh.
I'm doing pretty good. All I did was snort some cocaine and drink Mad Dog, right?
That's what he would do.
You know what I mean? I'm like, that's
Yeah.
all that happened to you and you're shooting heroin? Give me a break, right? But
And I'm getting mad at him.
yeah,
So I'm like,
she's like,
where is
David,
your
you're-
compassion, David?
she would be like
Where
this.
is your compassion?
Trauma is not a competition, David.
Yeah,
That's what she
yes.
would tell me.
Yeah.
But that was me being the victim to making okay what I did.
Yeah.
Well, really, but look at this guy, and I'm okay. But
Yeah, we glorify our victim.
Oh, yeah.
victimness.
We put it in there.
It becomes who we are.
Yeah.
It's my identity now.
I feel left out.
Yeah.
I have no trauma
Yeah.
to speak of.
that
I
kind
just
of
got-
trauma.
I
just
You
got
had to have
that
some
kind of-
trauma. Yeah.
No, I got high because it looked like everybody else was having fun, and it was just stuck, and I didn't want to quit.
Yeah. Well, then
Yeah.
it got into your this family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Your
family.
neurotransmitters.
Well, then we're learning things now of
Yeah.
why I think I couldn't. I'll never figure out why, but the ADHD, all the things that are going on up here that it probably had a lot to do with self-medication.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, see what happens is people think trauma is sexual, physical, but trauma can be. Yeah, I mean, I know dudes who that I grew up with whose dad. Man, I shouldn't say they'll know who he is, but anyway, his dad was a well-known figure where I was from and started different programs, and I was in treatment with him, and I'm like, dude, your dad was at anytime I ever went to the school, your dad was there watching you play basketball. And your dad was, you got a brand new Suzuki Samurai when you got your license. Like I was like, I didn't even know where my dad was. Like but see, he had his own thing that he was never good enough, or he was lacking something. You know what I mean? Like his trauma.
Just because they have money does not mean everything's
well,
okay.
not even
in
money,
life.
but not even money. I'm just saying, like his life seemed normal. So I'd be like, "What are you here for, dude?" To me, exactly. So we all got trauma one way or the other.
Right.
And what I always like to say too is, no matter if you've never done a drug, you don't have a tattoo, you never stole nothing. We all killed Jesus.
Yes.
The foot of the cross is level.
Yeah, that's
right? Tattoos,
That's right.
no tattoos.
Yeah.
Good cop, no cop.
Yeah.
But we all killed Jesus. You
That's
know what I'm
right.
saying? And
Yeah.
we all need a savior. And without him, going to hell.
It's only one way. Only one way. Yeah.